I used OpenCloud to build a 700 million AI team. Automatically help me draw every day, write daily newspapers, and order stocks. I have been writing code for almost 2 months. Hello, everyone. Welcome to the secret garden of tech. I am a garden teacher.
Here's a quick sponsor message. This AIAPI aggregation platform for domestic and international large models lets you access 500 plus AI model APIs at lower cost and with faster integration. Kling v3 is priced at $0.07, and the NanoBanana 2 costs $0.025 per call. Overall pricing is only 20% to 80% of the official rates, with token costs as low as RMB 0.05 per million. It also offers an online playground, so you can freely use text, image, and video models with unlimited concurrency. If a request fails, you'll be refunded. Just click the link in the video description to go directly there. If you want discounts or run into any issues, join our Discord community for prompt support, or add customer service and send the message 6 for one-on-one assistance. All right, back to the video.
Let's talk about an interesting phenomenon first. Since the lobster came to light, more and more friends around me are installing. I previously published a complete guide to OpenCloud in this technical tutorial. More than 70,000 people have seen it, but I later found a problem. Most of us put a lot of effort into it. You can also chat with him in the flying tree. And then there's no more. You know it's strong, and I've seen a bunch of tutorials, but when you really want to use it, there's only one thought in your mind. What am I going to do with it? If you're in this state right now, then this video is specially prepared for you. I will share it in full later. I have 6 real construction processes in the past 2 months. Specialized agent plus a supervisor who coordinates scheduling. I will make it clear to you that each agent is doing it. Why is it designed this way? What pitfalls have you stepped on in the middle? And how do you replicate it? The content is relatively hard, and it is recommended to like and collect it first. This is followed by step-by-step operation. Then you need to pay attention to it. In this issue, we focus on sharing the actual configuration experience of OpenCloud. If you haven't learned about the basics of OpenCloud yet, I recommend taking a look at my previous complete guide to OpenCloud. Let me briefly introduce the positioning and core values of each agent. The first is the Garden Survival Assistant. Write articles every day. Need pictures for PPT, need illustrations. I just need to say a word to him directly in a waste book. He also knows my aesthetic preferences and common style. So most of the pictures it generates. No need to make iteration and adjustments. Then there is the Picture Information Assistant. It runs automatically every day. It pulls the latest developments in the AI field from external sources. Then organize it into a well-structured AI daily report, automatically pushed to our Easy AI website. The AI daily report you see now in Easy AI is laboratory information, assistant automatic grabbing, and it needs to be done every day before it is done. Manually collect this information and execute scripts to generate it. Below is the Garden Development Assistant. You can command remotely through FaceShoe on your mobile phone. Cloud Code received a GitHub hand that escaped from a phone. Say it and it will automatically help you troubleshoot problems. And reply. Then the Garden Investment Assistant is positioned as my investment analysis staff. It will help me pull the data analysis of individual stocks and key trend indicators, compare industry trends, and finally generate buy and sell recommendations. Before that, this was a membership service that could only be bought with money. Now you can have it directly, and you can do whatever you want. The Welcome Community Assistant is a semi-automated community operation. Agent. He can automatically post content on the Modbook community, respond to comments and interactions with other agents. You can also regularly summarize interesting perspectives from the community. Below is the Welcome Writing Assistant. The tutorial you see now is what I completed with my writing assistant. It's more like a writing partner who remembers my writing style. Help me search for information, sort out the outline, have something to say, check the logic, supplementary details. Finally, there is the original intelligent expert. He understands the personalities and skills of all the agents on the team. When there is a complex task, when it needs to be executed by teamwork, he will help me coordinate the completion. Looking at the above 6 agents, you might think, why not cram all your skills into one agent? Be a garden, an all-around assistant. Can not only write articles, but also analyze stocks and upgrade charts. Wouldn't it be more convenient? This is a very natural idea, but if you strive for practice, you may encounter many problems. First, contextual pollution. The context window for an agent is limited. When you touch the reminder of the raw application, the style guide for investment analysis framework writing is all stuffed in. Similarly, context. The agent's attention inside will be severely distracted. You let him write an article. He may unconsciously use the terms of investment analysis in the news. You ask him to analyze stocks. He may use the polishing style of his writing to embellish the data. This is certainly not what you want. Second, skill conflicts are different. The tools and permissions required in the scenario are completely different. For example, our development assistant needs ASP protocol for scheduling. Cloud code. This permission is completely redundant for the writing assistant, and there are security risks. The investment analysis assistant needs to access the data interface of ToAPIs. The community assistant needs to access the Modebooks API. Open all of this to an agent. If the principle of least privilege is violated, the accuracy of the power supply will also decrease. Third, the conflict between characters. A good agent needs to have a clear definition of the quotient. For example, investment assistants should be cautious. Data-driven risk awareness is strong. The assistant should have temperature. There is literary talent. Good at structured expression. To put it bluntly, assistants can be interesting and have personality. Be social and interactive. These completely different personalities. It is difficult to coexist harmoniously on a generalized basis. So our final conclusion is that specialization is better than all-encompassing isolation, better than sharing. Just like an efficient team, not made up of an all-powerful person. Instead, it is composed of several experts who are good at a certain field. What about OpenCloud's multi-agent architecture? Nature is designed for this model of expert teams. Let's take a look at building more OpenLogs. Some theoretical knowledge that agent teams need. First of all, from the consensus of the university and engineering circles, a production-level general agent is generally composed of the following major elements. The model is the cognitive engine of the agent, responsible for language comprehension, inference and planning generation and output. It determines the intelligence ceiling of the agent. Let the agent go from stateless function to an assistant that can work continuously. Memories are usually categorized into short-term memory. It is the context of our paintings and long-term memory. Includes some knowledge of persistence across painting. He defines the agent's role behavior, boundary guidelines, and communication style. Answer the same question. A setup as a rigorous technical advisor and the other is set up as a friendly assistant. The experience you give is completely different from the two agents. Then there are tools, that is, web capabilities that agents can call. For example, code execution API calls to the browser, manipulation, documents, reading, writing, etc. planning, and execution. The ability to plan allows agents to break down complex tasks into actionable steps. In some fixed mission scenarios, you can also set up a fixed workflow for the agent. Finally, the operating environment requires a security agent. Isolation, clear execution environment. OpenCloud has done a very engineering implementation of this common architecture. First, in OpenCloud, each agent can be bound to a different model. For example, we can set up a model for the writing agent to be good at chatting. For example, GP 5.4 sets up a model that is good at coding for development agents. For example, CloudOps 4.6. In OpenCloud, each agent has an independent memory. Short-term memory, that is the current conversation context window. Mid-term memory, that is the work record of recent days. OpenCloud will be in the memory directory. Set up a memory file for your daily work. Long-term memory, that is the user preferences and key decisions precipitated by painting. In OpenCloud is stored in memory. MD in this file. Then in OpenCloud, the persona is set up. It is mainly defined by a set of markdown files. The first is identify. MD stores the name role of the agent. This basic information, so MD defines the core identity and code of conduct for agents. This is to make the OpenCloud agent feel like a real person, rather than a key user of machine. MD stores information about you. What are your preferences? It allows agents to get to know you better. Give a more targeted answer. In OpenCloud, the tool consists of two main parts. The first is the file read and write commands, and the execution of these built-in tools is always available. Then there are skills. It is also divided into built-in skills for bundled installation and skills for user self-expansion. OpenCloud also supports configuring the tool's blacklist and whitelist independently for each agent. Implement permission control of sharpness. Although the planning ability of the agent is mainly driven by the reasoning ability of large models, but it also relies on good prompt word engineering. In OpenCloud, it is embodied as agents. MD. This document defines how exactly does AI work. It is the implementation manual of the character. It clarifies the standard process for processing tasks in AI. The rules used by the tool continue to be used. Make sure the AI behaves exactly as you expect. Finally, the operating environment. In OpenCloud, each agent has its own independent workspace. You can think of it as each employee's workstation. In this workstation, there are his own personalities, documents, skills and memory, and so on. The workspace of each agent is completely independent. No, let's learn how to configure OpenCloud below. Multi-agent is actually to let OpenCloud clarify the following 3 questions. First, the working environment is isolated and clear. Who is where? Problems at work? We need to assign a separate workspace to each agent. You can use the following command to create this command for OpenCloud agents add. This is followed by the unique identifier of this agent. What about after it is completed directly? Each command automatically creates a separate workspace for OpenCloud. Then dispose of so in this workspace. mdagents.mdozayer.md and other core documents. And this order will also be for us. Configure files. Add some configurations. He will add a new agent under the agents list. This includes his ID and then his work catalog, and then some of his identification information. Let's take a look at routing rules to solve the problem of who to send messages to. Here we still use FaceU. First of all, you need to have a FaceU boot that has completed the relevant permission configuration. Then record this app secret. If you don't know how to get your OpenCloud technology out yet, you can check out the technical tutorials in my previous OpenCloud complete guide. Then we won't go into detail in the video. Then let's look directly at this configuration under this channel. Then it can be configured with multiple accounts for each channel. Here, we recommend configuring an account for each independent agent. We just put this Facebook appid and app secret is just here. And what about this key of this account? This is the accounted. This is what we need to record. Next, we need to make OpenCloud. Do you know which account corresponds to which agent? At this time, we need to add a bindings page. This page is very intuitive. We just need to specify this agented, and just now, the corresponding relationship of this accounted can be set up. It's over. We recommend that these 2 IDs be matched with the same, so that it is easier to remember. In an OpenCloud, you can also adjust an agent. Use the capabilities of another or more agents to get the work done together. This call process is non-blocking. After the main agent initiates the call, it can continue to do its own thing. After the called agent completes the task, the results will be broadcast back. It's like you asked your coworkers to help with something. After he finished it, we'll come to tell you proactively. What about dividing it by safety considerations? You need to make it clear through this subagents page. Each agent is allowed to call which other agents. Here is an example of a minimal multi-agent configuration. We just need to focus on the 3 Ks of agent channels bindings. Start with the agents list project. We can declare each agent's workspace, his ID and his name, etc. Then we can also specify whether he has it. Permission to drive others through subagent. Agent. Then we can add a FaceU account for each agent. Finally, I specify the ID of each agented for his corresponding FaceU account. Then here we only specify one bandance. This is because we have a default under account. And if there is no agent specified in the bandit, we'll be routed to this default fee account by default. Let's take a look at each agent specifically. First of all, let's take a look at the actual interaction. We sent a message to this garden assistant on the scrapbook. Help me draw a hand-drawn picture in a simple style. To introduce the 6 elements of an agent, refer to the following content. A few seconds later, the agent returns a beautifully hand-drawn style information sheet. Let's change the style again. Help me draw a picture of a rigorous academic third-line style. See below. XXX, same instructions. Keyword agents of different styles automatically switch to the corresponding prompt subtemplate. Then generate a photo in a completely different style. There is no shortage of excellent raw coding tools on the market. But if you're a high-frequency user, you must have encountered these pain points. First, prompt management. You may have saved a dozen different styles of prompt size templates in your memo. Every time you paint raw, you have to find a copy and paste first, and it takes a long time to replace it. There are more and more versions, which is the latest. Which works better? I may not remember it clearly. Then there's the context break. In ordinary raw coding applications, each generation is a one-time tool. I don't remember the last time you used it. I don't know what shade you prefer. And most of the time, raw coding is just one part of your workflow. You may need a picture of your husband, then insert the document or post it to the group for discussion. But there's a separation between the application and your collaboration tools. Manual switching is required. Welcome to vivid and hands-on one-line ideas. It is to use the 2 major mechanisms of OpenCloud to solve these 3 problems. First, put a variety of prompt templates. The different vivid models are defined as a retrievable skill. Agent automatically consults when needed. Then we use OpenCloud's long-term memory. Let the agent remember the workflow you're familiar with. There is no need to repeat the explanation in the future. Let's take a look at the specific configuration of the raw coding assistant. The main configuration is divided into 3 parts. The first step is to configure a raw coding model. We go to the control panel of OpenCloud, find our agent under the agent, then switch under skills. As we all know, at present, the model with the best effect in the industry is this NanoBanana. Most of the pictures in my article are also generated by NanoBanana. Here is a third one I encapsulated myself. One of the platform's NanoBanana API skills that is also bundled with this NanoBanana image skill in OpenCloud by default. That's just the default state that it's not enabled. The precondition for this is that we need to be in the environment variables. After configuring a dedicated IPFK environment variable configuration, OpenCloud can automatically discover and invoke this skill. But NanoBanana, as Google's flagship survival model, the price is still relatively expensive. So I recommend you to match it with another price, compared to the relatively high domestic survival model. For example, the Beanbag Dream series of the Volcano engine that I have additionally configured here is still relatively accessible under some simple field lines. Here we have installed this Beanbag C-Dream C-Dance scale. This one needs to be manually installed under CloudHub. What about after the installation is completed? We need to add an ARKAPI to this environment variable. That is, this key of the Volcanic product engine can activate this skill. Then the second step is to add a hint magnetic template skill ourselves. This step is also the core of the difference between the Garden Raw Painting Assistant and ordinary raw painting tools. We created a self-reliant skill called Prompt Template. Then it is structured like this. First, we have a lot of information about scale. The MD describes the usage scenarios and indexing methods of each template. Then we add a template file under the reference. Here is the body of all the prompt templates. This skill was also created by OpenCloud for us. You just need to tell him in the conversation that you want to create this skill and send him your commonly used prompt templates. The skill is created, but the agent doesn't know when to use these skills. Then we can use constraints to get him into the subsequent workflow. For example, we can tell him to remember long-term memory. If subsequent users ask for survival pictures, specify a picture style. First, go to this skill to retrieve the prompt words that meet the requirements. But use this template to splice together what the user wants to generate. Content to form a complete survival prompt. Finally, call the survival skill. And that's it. According to your habits, just adjust it step by step. This core is still well defined. The following documents. Then let's take a rough look. What about the survival assistant's soul.md? We mainly explain his identity. For example, the definition we gave him is the top in the world. AI drawing prompt engineer and world designer. Then explain its communication, tone, aesthetic standard prompt generation principles, as well as the implementation rules and safety boundaries that must be followed during the birth of the child. Then this agents.md basically doesn't need to be changed. Just explain the work of this raw assistant. The way the process and day-to-day operation is fine. That's a Mabry. In MD, we will explain some of its stable preferences. For example, when holding up the picture, by default, NanoBanana is used. Then use beanbags when the task actively asks for it. Dream. Next, let's look at this garden information assistant. Every afternoon, I receive an analyzed copy of my scrapbook on time. Okay, AI Daily. This one is fully automated and without human intervention, which is currently an easy AI. The AI Daily reports you see on the website are automatically crawled and generated by OpenCloud. What about the birth of this agent? In fact, it stems from a pain point I have encountered recently. Then there's an AI Daily module in the EZI project I operate. The content of this daily newspaper is actually for this A-News. The content of this website is analyzed by secondary processing so this is something I usually need to go to regularly. This website will see if there is any update. If you copy the content again, use the script for secondary analysis. Structured data is then generated after manually uploading to our website. So my data is simple. Let OpenClaw help me with this. Everyone's thinking is probably like this. First, we subscribe to this daily newsletter by email. It allows us to stay up to date with the latest updates. Then let OpenCloud read the emails. After reading the email, call the ontology script to generate a structured daily report. Then automatically generate pushes, create a scheduled task, and do some optimization. The configuration of the airframe is divided into 4 steps. The first step is to install an email skill. There are actually a lot of email-related skills on CloudHub, including OpenCloud is also afraid that the skill to access Gmail is installed. However, it is still recommended that you do not choose the skill of pinning a certain type of mailbox, because these skills are often limited and the process is more complicated, and there is no way to be universal. It is recommended that you install a skill that supports the IMAP protocol directly. The IMAP is a universal email contact protocol. It lets you use code to read and manage emails from the server. Then our QQ mailbox here is an example. The next configuration that needs to be done is to first need to be here. This account in the Q box and security in this security setting. Let's start with this IMAP service. After opening, we can click this to generate an authorization code. Then let's save this authorization code first. Then the next step is to configure the environment variables. We need to configure a series of IMAP-related environment variables, including its host. This is a fixed port. It is also fixed. User is your email. This path is the authorization code that was just generated at this step. Then everything else is fine by default. Then the second step is to analyze the configuration of the script. And what about the code of this script? I have uploaded it to our warehouse for him. Then I won't introduce the specific logic. In fact, the core is to make it read OpenCloud from the content of the email in a copy generated in the email. The third step is to set up a stable analysis process for the agent. Then let's take a look at his agents.md documents. Here's the process. First, he will check if there is a local spawn. Good daily report content with a specified date. If there is, go straight back. Then he will call the IMAP skill to retrieve it. Is there an email in the mailbox that meets this rule? If anything, he calls the script, write the body of this email to the local level. Then locally pass this path in and execute the script. Then go and get the analyzed daily content. Finally, format the daily report. Then finally read this file, and then extract the relationship information. Send it to us again. And finally, through Git, then push the generated content to the remote. The fourth step is to create a time task for it. Check if you want to generate a daily report at 6 p.m. every day, and if necessary, generate and push summaries. And once configured, you don't have to worry about anything. Fly out of the group every afternoon and appear on time. AI Daily. Let's take a look at the Garden Investment Assistant. We can have him perform a specific analytical task. For example, let's ask him to analyze BYD, then give specific investment advice. A few minutes later, he will give a very complete study. The report includes the company's fundamentals, profitability, and growth. Cash, travel, financial, and security analysis. What is the current valuation position? The distribution of the current chips, and then some risks. Then there's the flow of funds and a very comprehensive technical analysis. Finally, he will give a comprehensive score based on the overall analysis. Use this score to quantify whether it is worth buying at the moment. This kind of in-depth analysis, if done manually, will take at least half a day. It will switch between various financial websites or spend money to buy various membership services. Now, for just one sentence, you can get it. You can also use it to analyze the actual trend of the stock. For example, you can ask it to give where to sit. It is more suitable to sell, and so on. If you usually pay attention to stocks, you should have a deep understanding. There's so much information to read every day. Financial reports, news, and technical indicators will be very hard to collect, not to mention judging from this kind of refinement. Therefore, the positioning of investment assistants is very clear. I gave him a ticker symbol. He helped me pull out the key data, compile a clear report. The time saved allows me to focus on decision making. Then this agent is the heaviest character in the whole team. Because the fault tolerance rate of investment is very low, you don't want AI to compile data or be overly optimistic, an unreliable suggestion. It may bring you shocking losses. Therefore, I assigned him a very strict system through the on-cloud personnel system. In addition, it is equipped with the skills to obtain financial data. A rigorous analytical framework has been set. It constitutes our current Garden Investment Assistant. Let's take a look at the specific configuration, which is mainly divided into 3 steps. The first step is to give him access to accurate financial data. Then we mainly use this ToShare scale. ToShare is a well-known financial data interface platform in China. It provides hundreds of professional financial APIs. This ToShare is its official skill. Get very professional and comprehensive financial data. That's just the premise of using this scale. We need to register a ToShare account first, then generate an interface token, then inject this token into ours. OpenCloud's ToShare token. Inside, this scale can be used normally. And then it is not enough to have analytical data. He also had to know how to analyze these data, in what way to give a conclusion. So I investigated some more mainstream analysis methods, and combined with some of my personal style, build a skill dedicated to stock data analysis. So let's take a look at its main documents. The first is its skillet. It stipulates the complete implementation process. Read the analysis framework first, then call figure 12 to import the data. Then call the scoring system to produce a structured report. Under the reference, there is a document for the investment framework. It will clearly list when making an investment analysis report for a stock, what data need to be looked at, and then a strict mundane system is prescribed. That is, from what dimensions do you judge whether a stock is good or not? Finally, it means which range it falls into, means buying the observation position, or avoid. There's also a report template document at the end. It is used to specify what chapter order should be in the final output report, how to arrange, what should each section contain, and so on. Finally, let's take a look at the personality and memory files of the investment assistant. First of all, in this SOTI.md, we define him as a professional investment expert with 20 years of investment experience. He then clarified his core analytical principles, how to use skills, etc. And then there is user.md. This is also important. He will tell the investment assistant, what kind of person am I when it comes to investment and financial management? It is more conducive to him being able to give us more targeted suggestions in the future. That ended up in memory. Its long-term working memory and fixed processes are recorded in the MD. For example, when we ask to generate investment advice, which skills should be read first? What data is remitted? In what scoring framework is the analysis carried out? Finally, what kind of structure is used to output the report, etc. And then there's a little trick at the end. Because the flower player invests in such an agent, the positioning and the tasks to be carried out are very clear. It is recommended that you make some convergence and restrictions on the tools and skills that can be executed. This ensures that he can focus more on his original duties and tasks. First, we can come to this tool. In order to prevent it from searching for things, you can turn off the built-in web search web fetch tools. This way it will focus on getting data from the skills we have installed for it. There are also some tools he doesn't need, such as browsers, image generation, and TDS. These can be turned off. Then we come to skills. In fact, OpenCloud bundles a lot of skills by default. In most cases, this is not needed under this agent. We can all turn it off. Finally, let's take a look at the configuration of this agent. We just finished the changes. In fact, it corresponds to the addition of some blacklists to the tools of this agent. At the same time, give it skills. It is recommended that you create a system for each independent agent. Set such a blacklist and whitelist. We won't go into detail later. Let's take a look at the Garden Development Assistant. Imagine a vacation. I received a GitHub issue from the homepage project, and I didn't bring my computer with me. What to do? You only need to send a message to the developer on the mobile phone scrap number. Help me take a look at this issue, and then check the specific reason. After a few minutes, it returns a complete investigation conclusion. Include the context of the code and possible source of the problem. We can directly reply to this troubleshooting conclusion to GitHub issue. Then we saw that he successfully created a reply on GitHub. The whole process is done on the phone. From receiving the issue to giving a professional troubleshooting reply. The whole process only takes a few minutes. The main purpose of my development assistant is to help me maintain open source projects. Therefore, the idea of building mainly revolves around two things: managing the warehouse and carrying code. Relies on the GitHub skill installed by OpenCloud by default. But closing the door is not enough, the real development task. For example, code modification requires a professional programming agent to do it. Although OpenCloud can also write code itself, but it is still recommended to leave professional things to professional people. Then the question arises, how to let OpenCloud command external programming agents like Cloud Code do the job? The answer is ACP. This is a standardized set of agent consent agreements. Clients that can make any agent do, connect to other support in a unified way. ACP agent, for example, Cloud Code Codecs, specialized CLI, etc. With it, OpenCloud can be programmed through interfaces. Complete and Cloud Code painting management, message interaction options, control files, read/write, and terminal operations, and more. There is no need to operate through simple command line parsing. Let's take a look at the specific configuration. First of all, this GitHub skill, although it is a skill installed by OpenCloud by default, but we need to complete one certification to use it this way. If you have this CLI installed locally, this is also a CLI tool officially provided by GitHub. Then I need to execute the Joffligen command in the middle. Follow the interactive leader to complete the GitHub account authorization. After successful certification, this GitHub scale can help you list the repositories to create issues and submit PRs. Then there is the ability to configure ACP. We Cloud specialize in the ACP protocol, encapsulated an official plugin. ACPX we can install and enable this ACPX plugin with this command. And after the order was completed, we'll add such an Axe plugin under our plugins configuration, and then some other installation-related configurations. Then we also need to add a separate configuration item for the ACP. This configuration item is related to the agent's model's configuration in a rating relationship. The first step is to enable this ACP. Then use the Axe plugin as the backend to allow calling Cloud Code by default. Then everyone else can fill in these defaults. Then there is a pit that is easier to step on. because ACP painting is non-interactive. When Cloud Code needs to write files or these commands, a prompt may pop up to confirm permissions, which will get stuck by default. So we also need to enable ACP operation permissions through these two configurations. However, this also means that the agent can do it without you needing confirmation. Execute arbitrary commands. Be sure to make sure that our job catalog scope is reasonable. Finally, we recommend having the agent remember some of your development habits. This can reduce a lot of communication costs later. For example, we can make him remember the subsequent development tasks. By default, ACP is used to operate Cloud Code. And what is the common development directory for our local computers? Subsequent instructions only need to say the name of the item. He can find items in this directory himself. Let's take a look at the Garden Community Stop. This agent is very simple. Let's talk about it briefly. What about when OpenCloud comes to life? There are many social platforms specially built for agents. Then these platforms only allow AI agents to post and interact on it. Human users can only watch from the sidelines. Then our Garden Community Assistant was created specifically for playing with these communities. He helped me post with the identities and other agents on these communities. It is quite interesting to observe the behavior patterns of different agents. The configuration method is also very simple. These platforms are generally dedicated to this. The agent provided a skill described in the description. How should I register and interact with posting? We just need to throw the link to these skills directly to the AI. They can learn it themselves. We won't go into too much here. Finally, let's take a look at the flower etymology writing, assistant and multi-agent writing sections. Let's take a look at the effect of using the writing assistant alone. We asked him to research and write a technical article. He then helped us generate a detailed flyout document. The quality of the article is also very good. Basically, you can send it out and use it directly. Plus, collaboration often has some more complex requirements. It may take multiple members of the team to collaborate on the task. We can give laboratory intelligence experts a task that requires multi-party collaboration. First of all, get the content of the daily report on March 18th. Then generate 3 suitable pictures. Finally, more research was conducted for the daily newspaper. It appears as a rich AI daily nonsense document. He then coordinated the relevant staff to complete the task. First, let the Garden Consulting Assistant get the daily report content generation with picture suggestions. Then send a Garden Student Picture Assistant. Generate 3 images based on the theme of the daily newspaper. Finally, send a Garden Writing Assistant to do more research. Expand the content of information into in-depth articles. And insert the picture in the appropriate place to output a document. Finally, we got such a rich AI daily document. This is a case of multi-agent collaboration. You don't need to tell everyone individually how to do it. You just need to tell your team's supervisor. Whatever result you want, it's fine. The core of writing assistant construction is to replicate your writing style as much as possible. Detailed personnel settings and a complete workflow definition. For example, the workflow I set for him is like this. First of all, the needs are understood and a user confirms the style and approximate length of the topic audience. Then conduct a preliminary investigation. Search for relevant materials through web search skills. Then draw up an outline and output a structured outline for users to confirm. Next, write section by section. Each chapter is written independently. In this process, extract the original text of detailed web searches for content that needs to be dug deeper. Then carry out self-inspection and polishing to check the consistency of logic and data accuracy. Finally, rewrite the parts of the content that appear to be AI generated. The result is a complete, error-free document. The specific configuration of the writing assistant is divided into 3 steps. The first step is to set up skills according to the workflow above. There are 3 core skills we need. The first is online search. Online search here, we use the Tably skill. Tably is a search engine optimized for AI agents. APIs are more important than directly calling a generic search engine. The results returned by Tably are more structured, less noise, ideal for research and writing. Then we can install it according to the official Tably documentation. Once installed, we can see it in this workspace. Install Research Search to extract these skills. Then we also need to configure a TablyAPI environment. It can be used after being configured. Then there are the skills of flying out documents. When we installed the flyout plugin before, in fact, the skill of flying out of the document has been bundled with the use of this skill. The premise is that we need our flying out bot to activate the relevant permissions of the flying out document. Then there's a custom skill writing for a while. A very high frequency demand for something written by AI. Some parts look AI generated at a glance and may require repeated manual color recognition. So it is highly recommended to follow our usual writing habits. Create a skill that specializes in removing the AI flavor. For example, in our skill, what can be noted? This kind of speech is changed to a more natural expression. In short, to sum up, this kind of AI flavor is a relatively strong word. Replace overly neat comparison dramas, breakup, etc. You can adjust it according to your usual writing habits and style. Let's take a look at a few personas and memory files. First of all, in soul.md, we can write your usual writing tone and style, core principles, agent behavior boundary, etc. Then let in memory. Remember this complete workflow that we just set up. This is the basic configuration of the garden writing assistant. Finally, let's take a look at multi-agent collaboration. To achieve such an effect here, you need to use the subagent function in OpenCloud. In the design of OpenCloud, we can use a subagent to create a subagent in an agent. Coordinate with other agents to complete the work together. For example, we want to do something like the case above. In the image source intelligence expert, you can call the raw picture writing information 3 agents. We need to add the subagent's allow agent to the agents page. This configuration only enables multi-agent collaboration. If you want a garden intelligence expert to be a good manager, you must be able to know the specific information of all these subagents. We suggest that in the long-term memory of the supervising agent, write a detailed capability description for each child agent. We just send it to him and let him remember it. What about after these configurations are completed? Garden intelligence supervisors can come according to your needs. Coordinate different agents to get the job done. That's the end of our tutorial. The content is a bit more specific configuration. I omitted it. You can combine my OpenGlow again. The text version of the complete guide is linked to the actual operation. I put in the comments section. Self-inquiry that everyone needs. So if this tutorial is helpful to you, hope to get a free triple in attention. Thank you all and see you in the next issue.